Okay, hi, Room 5. We're going to be going over Section 3 and 4 today. Next week we'll do Section 5, and the following week we'll look at Section 6. So this is Section 3 in Chapter 29, Asian countries face economic challenges. In Chapter 25 and 28, you read about Mao Zedong and the communist control of China. After Mao died in 1976, China began to change. What was Deng's plan for economic reform in China? China's new leader called for changes in farming, industry, science, and the military. He let people own businesses and property again. He invited foreign countries to invest in China's businesses. To invest is to give money to a company with the hope of making more money. These new economic reforms changed China's standard of living. Many families could buy such things as televisions, radios, and fans. But the reforms had a bad side too. A gap developed between the rich and the poor. Crime increased, food prices went up. The government closed down inefficient factories, so some people lost their jobs. Okay, so what happened in Tiananmen Square? In May 1989, more than 3,000 students went on a hunger strike in Tiananmen Square in Beijing, China, China's capital. They wanted a democratic, not a communist government. Soon, more than a million people went out in the streets and called for change. Through television, the whole world learned about the protests. But on June 4, 1989, soldiers marched into Tiananmen Square and killed hundreds of protesters. The government put many student leaders in jail and tortured and executed them. After that, President Clinton called for human rights in China. That is, he said that people everywhere had the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why has Japan become an economic power? Japan is among the world's top producers of goods and services. It has the second largest economy in the world. Only the economy in the United States is stronger. People who study its economy give 3 reasons for its success. Number 1, the government works with large companies to plan industrial growth. Number 2, these companies get their money from banks. Many Japanese save their money in banks, so the banks have a lot of money to loan companies. Number 3, Japanese people like to work together. They are hard workers who produce products quickly and at low cost. They are well educated and highly skilled. What is happening to China's economy? China's economy is growing too. It is now the world's 3rd largest economy. People expect it to pass Japan in the next 10 years and become second to the United States. China's population of 1.2 billion provides a cheap supply of labor. Also, all the people are becoming consumers. That is, they want to buy things such as televisions, radios, telephones, and cars. What other Asian countries have better economies? South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, and Thailand have also experienced economic growth. South Korea builds ships and automobiles. Taiwan produces everything from toys to electronics. Singapore and Hong Kong are big manufacturers and banking. Thailand's economy has grown because foreign business owners can make money there. The people of Thailand make very little money. What economic problem does Asia have? In June 1997, the money supply of Thailand collapsed. Soon, the crisis spread to Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and South Korea. It bankrupted many Asian banks and businesses. This happened for 2 reasons. First, in the 1980s, many Asian businesses borrowed money from banks. Then factories began producing more than they could sell and prices went down. These businesses could not repay what they borrowed. Soon, both the banks and the businesses had no money. Second, foreign investors got worried. They pulled their money out of Asia. Then they invested in other countries. Okay, Section 4, Reforming the Soviet Union. Throughout its history, the Soviet Union had serious economic problems. However, it became a major industrial nation by the late 1930s. But the Soviet Union did not have many consumer goods. Soviet leader Joseph Stalin did not allow anyone to protest this lack of goods. In fact, he sent protesters to prison or executed them. Why did Khrushchev's reforms efforts fail? Stalin died in 1953. Nikita Khrushchev became the Soviet leader. He ended the government's cruel treatment of Soviet people. Then he reformed the economy. First, he told factory managers to produce more consumer goods. Then he allowed artists and writers some freedom to create what they wanted. But in 1964, all this changed. Khrushchev, who opposed reform, replaced Khrushchev. Khrushchev punished anyone who spoke out against the government. What was the Soviet economy like in 1985? In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became the Soviet leader. He was a young man with new ideas, but he faced a big problem. For example, the Soviet economy was falling apart. People spent hours a day standing in line to buy food and clothing. Prices were high and wages were low. A pair of winter boots cost most people a month's wages. So how did Gorbachev reform the Soviet Union? Gorbachev introduced a policy of glasnost, or openness, in government. He allowed a freer press. He also allowed people to speak out against the government. To help rebuild the economy, Gorbachev introduced Perestroika. This is, he let factories produce all the goods people wanted. Then Gorbachev moved his country towards a more democratic government by creating a parliament. The Russian people elected representatives to this parliament from the Communist Party and other parties. In May 1989, the Soviet parliament met for the first time. Gorbachev allowed its representatives to speak freely. What people wanted: independence. At that time, the Soviet Union was made up of 92 different groups of people who spoke 112 different languages. Some of these people began to demand independent nations of their own. Between 1988 and 1990, people in Azerbaijan, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldavia, Soviet Georgia, and Uzbekistan demanded independence. What happened? What caused the Soviet Union to collapse? This worried the Soviet army and the secret police. If the Soviet Union broke up, their power and influence would end. They tried to overthrow Gorbachev, but a leader named Boris Yeltsin led thousands of Russians against the army and police. This government takeover or coup failed, and Yeltsin became a hero. On December 1st, 1991, the Ukraine voted for independence from the Soviet Union. Within days, other Soviet republics declared their independence too. Gorbachev tried to stop the breakup, but he couldn't. He stepped down from office. On December 25th, 1991, the Soviet flag was lowered from the Kremlin for the last time. The Soviet Union no longer existed. The Russian Republic elected Yeltsin to be its president. Russia was the largest republic of the former Soviet Union. Yeltsin tried to keep some of the former Soviet Union together by forming the Commonwealth of Independent States. This is a group of 12 of the former Soviet republics. However, it had very little power. Yeltsin also pushed for a free market capitalism. This is a system that allows for private ownership of business. Yeltsin also wanted to increase the power of the presidency. Some thought that this was an attempt to become a dictator. Others thought Russia needed a strong president to face the many changes necessary to become a free market. Reform in Russia has not been easy. Some new businesses and new middle class has developed, but crime and dishonesty have also increased. Healthcare is poor. Also, factory workers are not producing as many goods. The government is unable to collect taxes. It does not have money to take care of the old and the poor. In 1998, the government could not even pay its bills. Yeltsin was once again elected president in 1996. However, many Russians do not agree with his leadership. Many foreign investors have pulled their money out of Russia. Today, the once powerful nation is only a shadow of what it once was. Alright, so next week we're going to look at Section 5, Europe Experiences Great Change. I hope you have a great week. Remember, weeks 1 and 2 work is due on Monday. Have a great week, guys.